1:10 a.m., April 17th, 1947. Most of Texas City is trying to sleep, trying to forget what happened 16 hours ago. The fire, the explosion, the bodies. But across the black water of the harbor, something glows. The SS High Flyer, loaded with 1,000 tons of ammonium nitrate and 2,000 tons of sulfur, is burning. And everyone with eyes knows what's coming next. A voice crackles over the radio, live on air. Here comes another explosion. The night tears apart. White light floods the sky like a second sun. Steel screams through the air. The shockwave ripples across the bay, and for miles. People hit the ground. The city that thought it had survived just got hit again. But here's the thing. This wasn't a surprise. They saw it coming, and they still couldn't stop it. So the question isn't just what happened. The question is, why did it happen twice? This is the story of the Texas City disaster. The deadliest industrial accident in American history. 576 people confirmed dead. Hundreds more never found. Thousands injured. Over 1,000 buildings. Leveled or damaged beyond repair. One of the largest non-nuclear explosions ever recorded. The shockwave shattered windows 40 miles away in Houston. Seismographs in Denver, 1,000 miles away, picked it up. 2 ships, 2 blasts, 15 hours apart. And it all started with one decision in a cargo hold. A decision that seemed perfectly reasonable at the time. April 16th, 1947. 8 a.m., Texas City, Texas, a working port on Galveston Bay. Oil refineries, chemical plants, grain elevators, ships coming and going with cargo bound for a world still rebuilding after the war. And on Pier O, the SS Grandcamp, a Liberty ship. French registry, nothing fancy, nothing special, just another cargo vessel doing its job. In her holds, 2,300 tons of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, bagged, stacked, ready for Europe. Farmers needed it. The world needed it. Routine cargo. Or so everyone thought. But sometime around 8 in the morning, a longshoreman climbing down into hold 4 smells smoke. Not a lot, just a whiff. He touches one of the bags. It's warm. He calls up to the deck. Others come down. They see it now, a thin haze curling between the stacks. Someone grabs a fire extinguisher, then another. They spray the bags. But it's not doing anything. The smoke keeps coming. The captain is informed. A fire in the hold. Small but growing. Standard procedure would be simple. Open the hatches, flood it with water, put it out. But ammonium nitrate can be damaged by water, and this cargo is worth a fortune. So, the captain makes a call. Don't use water. Instead, seal the hatches, pump in steam. The idea? Starve the fire of oxygen, smother it, keep the cargo dry, keep it safe, and save the shipment. It's a decision that's been made before, on other ships, with other fires. It sounds logical, but here's what the captain doesn't fully understand. Ammonium nitrate isn't just fertilizer, it's an oxidizer. That means it carries its own oxygen. You can't starve it, you can't smother it. And when you add heat and pressure and confinement, you don't put out the fire, you build a bomb. 8:30 a.m. The hatches are sealed, the steam is pumping, and then, bang. The pressure inside hold 4 blows the hatch covers off. A column of smoke erupts from the ship, but it's not gray, it's not black, it's yellow-orange, thick, billowing, climbing into the morning sky like some kind of chemical beast. People on the dock stop. Workers loading nearby ships, longshoremen on their break. Office clerks in the warehouses, they all turn and stare. Some of them walk closer, because it's beautiful in a terrible way. The plume twists and curls, catching the light. What they don't know is that yellow-orange smoke means nitrogen dioxide. It means the ammonium nitrate is decomposing. It means the reaction is accelerating. It means they should be running. But no one knows that yet. So they stand there, watching. 9 a.m., the smoke is darker now, thicker, and then flames. Red and orange tongues licking out from the blown hatch. Someone calls the fire department. The Texas City Volunteer Fire Department responds. 28 men, 4 trucks. They're good at what they do. Refineries, chemical plants. They've trained for dangerous fires. They pull up to the dock, unroll their hoses, and move toward the ship. The plan is simple. Get water on it, cool it down, knock it out. But when the first stream hits the deck, it flashes into vapor. The steel is too hot. The fire is too deep. Chief Henry Baumgartner looks at his men. They need more hoses, more water, more time. He radios for mutual aid. Republic Oil sends their fire brigade. Now there are firefighters on the deck itself, hoses in hand, working in the heat and the fumes. A crowd gathers at the edge of the slip. Hundreds of people, curious, concerned. Some bring their kids. Because this is Texas City. Fires happen, brave men put them out. This will be just another story to tell, right? The clock reads 9:10, 2 minutes left, 9:12 a.m. The SS Grandcamp vanishes, not in flames, not in smoke, in a shockwave. A detonation so massive, so instant, so total, that the ship simply ceases to exist. 2,300 tons of ammonium nitrate converting to gas in a fraction of a second. The blast wave moves outward at the speed of sound. It levels Pier O, gone, just gone. The Monsanto chemical plant, 300 feet away. Collapses like a house of cards. 145 of the 450 people inside die instantly. A 15-foot wall of water surges across the harbor, capsizing boats, smashing into the shore. Debris, glowing red-hot, arcs into the sky. Steel beams, anchor chains, cargo. One piece, a 2-ton anchor, flies more than a mile inland. Windows 40 miles away in Houston. Shatter. Cars on the highway flip. Roofs tear off. Walls crack. People in Louisiana feel the ground shake. A seismograph in Denver, 1,000 miles away, registers the shock. 2 small planes flying overhead are swatted from the sky. And on the dock, 27 of the 28 volunteer firefighters are gone, just gone, in one heartbeat. For a moment, the world goes quiet, not silent, but muffled, ears ringing, hearts pounding, dust and smoke hanging in the air like a curtain, people lying on the ground miles away, trying to understand what just happened. Did a refinery explode? A boiler? A fuel tank? No one knows yet. In the city, windows are blown out, doors are off their hinges, ceilings have caved in. At the Thomas Edison School, a half-mile from the dock, every window is gone. Children are bleeding, crying, covered in glass. At the port itself, where Pier O stood, there's just a crater. Where the Monsanto plant hummed with workers, there's a pile of twisted metal and concrete. Where firefighters charge toward the flames, there are no bodies, just pieces. The chief, the volunteers, the men from Republic Oil, 27 names that will go on a memorial. One survivor, one, Fred Dowdy, thrown clear by the blast, injured, but alive. He will spend the rest of his life wondering why. The radio crackles to life. Desperate voices, calls for help. Texas City is gone. Not the whole city, but the heart of it. The port, the plants, the warehouses, the grain elevators. Over 1,000 buildings damaged or destroyed. Fires are spreading. Refineries are burning. Fuel tanks are rupturing. The city's fire department, obliterated. The city's hospital, windows blown out. Patients bleeding. This isn't just a disaster. This is annihilation. Mutual aid streams in. Fire trucks from Houston, Galveston, all across the Gulf Coast. The Texas National Guard mobilizes. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers sends teams. But the scale? How do you even begin? The high school gymnasium is converted into a temporary morgue. Bodies, pieces of bodies, are brought in on stretchers, in trucks, in arms. 150 embalmers arrive from across Texas. Dental students come to help with identification. Because many of the dead can't be identified. Burns, trauma, or just missing. Entire families, entire work crews. Here one moment, gone the next. The official count will reach 576, but everyone knows it's more. Bodies washed into the bay. Bodies buried under rubble. Bodies vaporized. Texas City will bury 63 unidentified dead together in a memorial grave. 63 people whose names are lost forever. And then someone looks at the harbor and says the words that make every heart stop. There's another ship, the SS High Flyer, berthed at Pier A, just across the slip from where Grandcamp was. She's loaded. 1,000 tons of ammonium nitrate, 2,000 tons of sulfur. The blast from Grandcamp threw her loose from her moorings. She's drifting, burning, her holds already smoking, and she's wedged against another ship, the SS Wilson B. Keene, also carrying sulfur, 2 floating bombs, side by side, in the middle of a burning harbor. The harbor master looks at the scene and feels his blood turn to ice. If High Flyer goes, the city that just got leveled will get leveled again. But Texas City doesn't quit. Not now. Not yet. Volunteers pour in. Civilians, military, medical personnel. The gymnasium morgue is organized with grim efficiency. Tagging, photographing, recording. Ambulances shuttle the injured to hospitals in Galveston, Houston, anywhere with beds. Doctors operate by flashlight when the power fails. Nurses work double, triple shifts. The Red Cross sets up field kitchens. The Salvation Army distributes clothes, blankets, food. People open their homes to strangers, to the displaced, to the lost. Because this is what you do. When the world explodes, you pick up the pieces, but all the while, everyone's eyes keep drifting back to the harbor, to the smoke rising from the High Flyer, to the clock ticking. Later, investigators will ask the question, could this have been stopped? And the answer is yes. If they'd understood what the smoke was telling them. Yellow-orange fumes, nitrogen dioxide. It's a chemical signature, a warning. It means ammonium nitrate is breaking down under heat. Releasing oxygen, accelerating. At that point, water might have helped, flooding the hold, cooling the reaction. But steam is heat. Steam is pressure. You can't smother an oxidizer. It doesn't need outside air. It carries its own fuel, its own oxygen, its own destruction. The moment they sealed those hatches and pumped in steam, they locked in a runaway reaction. By 9 a.m., when flames appeared, it was already too late. The temperature inside that hold was climbing, the pressure building. And at 9:12, the chemistry reached its breaking point, and the world broke with it. Let's talk numbers, because numbers make it real. 2,300 tons of ammonium nitrate detonating releases energy equivalent to roughly 2 to 3 kilotons of TNT. For context, the smallest tactical nuclear weapon is around 1 kiloton. This was almost that. The shockwave traveled at the speed of sound. Pressure wave, 15 to 20 pounds per square inch at the port itself. Enough to collapse reinforced concrete, enough to pulverize steel, the seismic trace. Registered in Denver, 1,000 miles away. Not because the ground shook that far, because the atmosphere did. A pressure wave, moving through the air, compressing and expanding, traveling across the continent. People in Louisiana thought a refinery exploded. People in Houston thought it was an earthquake. No one thought it was a ship. Until the reports started coming in, until the photos started circulating, until the bodies started arriving. Afternoon, evening. The fires in Texas City rage on, and the High Flyer smolders. Smoke rising from her holds, the smell of sulfur and chemicals. Her anchor is jammed, her moorings cut. She's wedged against the Wilson B. Keene. Officials try to assess. Can they board her? Can they flood her? But the fumes are too thick. the heat too intense. By late afternoon, flames are visible, the clock is ticking. At 11 p.m., tugs arrive from Galveston. Volunteers, because no one is ordering anyone onto the water tonight. The plan, cut her free, tow her out to deep water, let her burn out there, away from the city, away from the refineries, away from people. The tugs pull, the chains go taut, but the high flyer won't budge. She's stuck, wedged, anchored by debris, by the sunken pier, by the wreckage of Grandcamp. They try for an hour, pulling, cutting, maneuvering, but she will not move, and the fire is spreading. 12:45 a.m., April 17th. The flames on the high flyer are out of control now. Hatch covers blown off. Orange glow rising from the holds. The tugs pull back. The volunteers evacuate. Radio stations broadcast the warning, "Get out, get away, another explosion is coming." People in Texas City, those who stayed, those who couldn't leave, they pack into cars, they run to the outskirts, they huddle in ditches. Some listen on the radio. Reporter Roy E. Hanna is broadcasting live from the harbor's edge. His voice is steady, but you can hear it. The fear. The high flyer is burning. Flames are visible from the holds. We are moving back. 1 a.m. The flames are white now, intensely hot. The steel hull is glowing. 5 minutes. The reporter's voice again. If she goes, we'll know. Everyone will know. 1:10 a.m. Here comes another explosion. You have just heard it. The sky is like broad daylight. 1:10 a.m. The SS High Flyer explodes. 1,000 tons of ammonium nitrate, 2,000 tons of sulfur. The flash lights up the night like a second dawn, white, blinding, searing. For a fraction of a second, night becomes day. People 15 miles away, asleep in their beds, wake to light pouring through their windows. They think it's morning. They think it's the sun. And then the shockwave hits. Windows implode, walls crack, dishes leap from shelves. Car alarms that survived the first blast scream into the darkness. Dogs howl, children cry, and everyone knows it happened again. The reporter, Roy E. Hanna, is still broadcasting. His voice cuts out for a moment, just static. Then it comes back, shaking, breathless. The sky is like broad daylight. I have to. You hear him running. Footsteps, heavy breathing, the microphone bouncing. And then the whistle of steel, fragments, debris, shrapnel, falling from the sky like a metal rainstorm. Hannah dives into a drainage ditch. The microphone thuds against concrete. For 10 seconds, you hear nothing but impacts. Clang, clang, whistling, crash. Steel burying itself in the ground, in buildings, in cars. Later, investigators will find pieces of the high flyer 3 miles away. A section of hull, embedded in a wall, still glowing red. The SS Wilson B. Keene, the ship wedged against high flyer, simply ceases to exist, not blown apart. Not capsized, erased. One moment it's there, a shadow against the burning ship. The next, nothing. Just debris, just vapor. Just a space where a ship used to be. Her crew had evacuated hours ago. All of them. Safe. Because this time, people learned. This time, they saw it coming. But the ship itself, gone. 200 feet of steel, cargo, fuel, atomized in a fraction of a second. And the high flyer, the same. Her hull, her superstructure, her holds, all converted to gas and shrapnel. The explosion punches a hole in the water itself, a cavitation bubble, a momentary void, and when the water rushes back, it creates a wave, not as large as the first, but enough. Enough to capsize small boats, enough to flood the docks, enough to remind everyone the harbor is a graveyard. But the blast itself is only the beginning, because the harbor is full of fuel, oil tanks, chemical storage, pipelines, refineries, all damaged by the first explosion. All leaking, all vulnerable. And now, burning debris rains down. A piece of superheated steel lands on a ruptured fuel line. Whoosh! Fire races along the pipeline, hits a junction, splits into 3 directions. Another fragment punches through the roof of a chemical warehouse. Boom! A storage tank of volatile solvents ignites. The fire spreads to adjacent tanks. Pop, 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 boom. It's like dominoes, one ignition triggering the next and the next. Fire crews, already exhausted, watch the cascade with horror. There's no stopping it, no containing it. All they can do is pull back, establish perimeters, protect what they can, and let the rest burn. The night becomes a light show. Yellow flames from sulfur, orange from oil, blue-white from chemicals. Secondary explosions ripple across the port. Not massive, not like the ships, but relentless, constant. Pop, pop, boom, pop, like a war zone, like an artillery barrage. A firefighter from Houston, volunteering on his day off, will later say, "I thought I was in hell. I thought this is what the end of the world looks like." He's not wrong. And so they wait. Rescue teams, firefighters, volunteers, standing at the perimeter, watching the harbor burn. There's nothing they can do, not yet. Not while the explosions continue, not while the fires rage. All they can do is wait for dawn, wait for the fuel to burn out, wait for the chemistry to run its course. Some of them sit, some stand, some pace. A nurse from Galveston sits on the bumper of an ambulance, her uniform stained with blood. She hasn't slept in 18 hours. She closes her eyes, but she can't sleep. Every time she does, she sees faces, the injured, the dying, the ones she couldn't save. A fire chief from Houston stands with his arms crossed, staring at the flames. His crews are ready, trucks fueled, hoses loaded. But there's nowhere to go, nothing to fight, just waiting. A Red Cross volunteer pours coffee from a massive urn, cup after cup after cup. Volunteers, soldiers, survivors, everyone silent, everyone numb. And overhead, the smoke, thick, black, blotting out the stars. The smell is indescribable. Burned chemicals, sulfur, oil, and underneath it all, something sweet, something organic, the smell of death. No one says it out loud, but everyone knows. April 17th, dawn, the sun rises, but you can barely see it. The smoke is too thick, the ash too heavy. The light that filters through is gray, pale, sickly, like the world itself is dying. Texas City looks like a bombing target. Buildings collapsed, streets cratered, cars overturned and burned. And the port is gone. Where piers once jutted into the water, there's just rubble. Where warehouses stood, there's just ash. Where ships were moored, there's just wreckage. The Monsanto plant is a crater, 300 feet across, 20 feet deep. The grain elevators are skeletons. Twisted steel and shattered concrete, and everywhere, silence. Not the silence of peace, the silence of absence. No machinery running, no trucks rumbling, no workers calling out, just the crackle of dying fires and the cry of gulls circling overhead, searching for food, finding bodies. 6 a.m. The all clear is given tentatively. Fires are still burning in isolated pockets, but the explosions have stopped. It's safe enough to go in. Search and rescue teams move into the rubble. Dogs, volunteers, soldiers, calling out, listening. Hello? Can anyone hear me? Is anyone there? Sometimes they hear a response, a voice, weak, muffled, but alive. And then it's a race, moving debris, lifting beams, cutting through metal. A man is pulled from the ruins of a warehouse, both legs broken, but alive. A woman is found under a collapsed office building, dehydrated, in shock, but breathing. A sailor from a nearby ship, blown into the water by the blast, washes up on the shore, alive. Injured, but alive. Each rescue is a miracle, each life saved, a victory against the odds, but they are few. For every survivor found, 10 bodies are recovered, or pieces of bodies. The work is grim. Volunteers tie bandanas over their faces. But it doesn't help. The smell, the sights, the reality. This isn't a rescue anymore. It's recovery. It's collecting the dead and trying to give them dignity. The high school gymnasium, before the disaster. This was where kids played basketball, where they held dances, pep rallies, graduations. Now, it's a morgue, rows of tables, rows of sheets, rows of the dead. The smell of formaldehyde tries to mask the other smells. It doesn't work. 150 embalmers work around the clock, cleaning, preserving, documenting. Every body gets a number, a photograph, a description, height, weight, hair color, distinguishing marks, anything that might help identify them. Dental students sit at folding tables, comparing x-rays, pre-mortem records from local dentists, compared to post-mortem remains, fillings, crowns, missing teeth. Sometimes it's a match, a name, a family, a person, restored, but often it's not. Burns too severe, trauma too extensive, or just not enough left. A torso, an arm, a fragment of bone. How do you identify a piece? And so the unknown pile grows and grows and grows. Outside the gymnasium, a line, families, clutching photographs, clutching descriptions, waiting, hoping, dreading. A woman in her 60s holds a picture of her son, 23 years old, worked at Monsanto. Shift started at 7 a.m. She hasn't seen him since yesterday. She's been to 3 hospitals, called every number she could find. No one has seen him. So now she's here, waiting. A Red Cross volunteer approaches, gently. "Ma'am, we need some information to help us." The woman nods. She's been through this before, at the hospitals, at the station. She recites the facts: height, weight, hair, eyes. Any scars? Yes. A burn on his left hand from childhood. Any dental work? She doesn't know. She thinks so? The volunteer writes it all down, gives her a number. We'll let you know, as soon as we can." The woman nods, returns to her spot in line, and waits. Hours pass. The sun climbs higher. People are called inside, one by one. Some come out, crying, but relieved. They know now. Others come out, angry, no match, no answers. And some never come out at all. They stay inside, sitting with the body, their husband, their wife, their child, saying goodbye. By May, most families have their answers, good or bad. At least they know. But 63 bodies remain, unidentified, unclaimed. Some are too damaged, some have no records, and some were people no one was looking for. Drifters, migrant workers, strangers, people who came to Texas City for work, who had no family, no ties, who died, and left no one behind to remember them. The city debates. What do we do? Individual graves? No. Too many, too expensive. Cremation? Some object. Religious reasons. And so, a decision. A mass grave, a memorial plot. 63 caskets laid side by side. A single marker, a single inscription. These gave their lives in the Texas City disaster, April 16th to 17, 1947. Known only to God, the funeral is held on a Saturday. Hundreds attend, maybe thousands. People who didn't know the deceased, but who feel connected by grief, by loss, by the shared trauma. A pastor speaks, a choir sings, and one by one, The caskets are lowered into the earth, into memory, into history. 63 people, 63 lives, each one unique, valued, loved by someone, even if that someone is gone too. But life continues. It has to. Because Texas City is a port city, an industrial city. People depend on it for jobs, for income, for survival. And so, the work begins. Within a week, the Army Corps of Engineers has crews on site, clearing wreckage, salvaging equipment, rebuilding infrastructure. Within a month, power is restored to most of the city. Within 3 months, the first ships return to the harbor, carefully, cautiously, but they return. And within a year, the refineries are running again. The chemical plants are operational. The city lives. But it's not the same. How could it be? Walk through downtown. The buildings are new, cleaner, more modern. But there are gaps. Empty lots where structures once stood. Memorial plaques, small gardens, remembrance. Talk to the people. They'll tell you their stories, where they were when it happened, who they lost, how their house shook, how their windows shattered, how they thought the world was ending. And in a way, it did. The old Texas City died on April 16th. The new Texas City was born from the ashes, stronger, more careful, more aware, but forever. Changed, but while the city rebuilds, while life tries to return to normal, another battle is brewing, a legal one, because someone has to be held accountable. The families of the dead want justice. They want answers. They want someone to pay. And the obvious target is the United States government, because the government loaded the ships. The government packaged the fertilizer. The government classified it as safe. And the government was wrong. In 1948, 1 year after the disaster, the first lawsuits are filed. By 1950, they've consolidated into a single class action. 8,485 plaintiffs, survivors, families, businesses, all seeking compensation. The lead case, Dalehite v. United States, named after Elizabeth Dalehite, whose husband died on the Grandcamp. The trial is massive. Hundreds of witnesses, thousands of pages of testimony, experts in chemistry, engineering, maritime law. The plaintiffs make their case. The government knew ammonium nitrate was dangerous. They'd seen it explode before. Bombay, 1944. 1,300 dead. But they ignored the warnings. They kept shipping it in paper bags. They classified it as non-explosive, allowed it on passenger ships. They caused this disaster through negligence. The government's defense? We were doing our best in wartime conditions with limited resources. We followed the standards of the day. This was an accident, tragic, but unforeseeable. The trial court finds for the plaintiffs. Negligence proven. The government is ordered to pay damages. But the government appeals all the way to the Supreme Court. 1953, 6 years after the disaster. The Supreme Court hears the case. And the question is simple. Can the government be sued for this? The answer should be simple too. Negligence was proven. People died. Families suffered. Of course they can be sued. But the law is complicated. The Federal Tort Claims Act, passed in 1946, allows citizens to sue the government, but it has exceptions. One of them, the discretionary function exception. It says, the government cannot be sued for policy decisions, for choices made at the planning level, the strategic level, only for operational failures. And the Supreme Court, in a 5-3 decision, rules that shipping ammonium nitrate, classifying it as fertilizer, deciding how to package it, those were policy decisions, discretionary, protected, and therefore the government is immune. The case is dismissed. 8,485 plaintiffs lose. The courtroom erupts, shouts, sobs, screams. A widow stands trembling and points at the judges. "You're telling me they killed my husband, and you're letting them walk?" Security moves in. She's escorted out, still shouting, "Murderers! You're all murderers!" Outside, the crowd is larger. Hundreds of survivors, family members, supporters. They'd been waiting, hoping, and now the news spreads. They lost. The government got off. Disbelief, rage, grief. A man, a longshoreman who lost 3 fingers in the blast, sits on the courthouse steps and weeps. Not because of his hand. He's learned to live with that, but because justice was supposed to matter. Truth was supposed to win. And instead, a legal technicality, a discretionary function exception, words on a page trumping human suffering. It feels wrong. It is wrong, but it's the law. But the people don't accept it. The newspapers scream. Supreme Court betrays Texas City victims. Government admits fault, pays nothing. When will justice be served? Letters flood Congress. Phone lines ring. Constituents demanding action. And slowly, Congress listens. In 1955, 8 years after the disaster, a special relief bill is introduced. The Texas City Relief Act. It authorizes payment of $16.5 million, split among the victims and families. Not because the government is legally obligated, but because it's the right thing to do. The bill passes, and finally, the families receive something. Not enough. It's never enough. You can't put a price on a life, on a father, on a child, but it's acknowledgement. It's the government saying, "We failed you, we're sorry, and we'll try to do better." It doesn't heal the wounds, but it helps, a little. But apologies don't prevent future disasters. Regulations do. And in the years following Texas City, everything changes. Ammonium nitrate is reclassified, no longer fertilizer, no longer non-explosive. It's a hazardous material. Class 1, oxidizer, dangerous, deadly. Requiring special handling, new packaging standards, no more paper bags, metal containers, sealed, temperature-controlled, new storage regulations, separate from other chemicals, monitored for heat and moisture, new shipping protocols, dedicated holds, fire suppression systems, trained crew, inspections, certifications, oversight. All the rules that should have existed in 1947 are now mandatory, written in blood, paid for with lives, and it works. Over the next 70 years, ammonium nitrate is still used, still shipped, millions of tons, all over the world. And yes, there are still accidents. West Texas, 2013, 35 dead. Beirut, 2020, 218 dead. Tragedies, failures, lives lost, but nothing on the scale of Texas City. Because the lesson was learned the hard way, the terrible way, but learned today. If you drive to Texas City, past the refineries, past the docks, you'll find a park, a quiet place, trees swaying in the Gulf breeze, benches facing the water, and in the center, a memorial, black granite walls. 576 names, carved, permanent, unforgettable, alphabetically ordered, no rank, no status. Factory workers next to executives, firefighters next to clerks, all equal, all remembered, and beside the names, 2 massive anchors, one from the Grandcamp, one from the High Flyer, each weighing tons, pulled from the wreckage decades ago, cleaned, painted, preserved, silent witnesses to the day. The world exploded. On April 16th, every year, a ceremony is held. Descendants gather, survivors, fewer each year, attend. They lay flowers, they say prayers, they tell stories about the grandparents they never met, about the city that died and came back, about the color of the smoke and the sound of the blast, about the lessons. We must never forget. There's a recording, archived, preserved, digitized. From April 17th, 1947, 1:10 a.m., the voice of reporter Roy E. Hanna, broadcasting live as the second ship explodes. If you listen closely, you can hear it all, the tension in his voice, the awe, the terror. Here comes another explosion. You have just heard it. A pause. Breathing. The sky is like broad daylight. And then, static. The microphone cutting out. Then, back in. The sound of running, of impact, the whistle of steel falling from the sky. And finally, silence. That recording survives in museums, in archives, in documentary films. A voice from the past, reminding us, this happened, this was real. 576 lives, not numbers, not statistics, people with names, with families, with dreams, all ended in a flash. Because here's what we need to understand. Ammonium nitrate is still everywhere, on farms, in mines, in factories worldwide. It's cheap, it's effective, it's necessary, but it's also a bomb, waiting for the right conditions. Heat, confinement, a spark, a mistake. And when those conditions align, physics doesn't care about intentions. Chemistry doesn't care about regulations. The reaction happens, and people die. Texas City taught us that. At a cost of 576 lives, at a cost of a city nearly destroyed, at a cost we can never repay. So the question isn't, could this happen again? The question is, what are we doing to prevent it? Are we following the regulations? Are we maintaining the systems? Are we learning from history? Or are we, like that captain in April of 47, making decisions that seem reasonable right up until the moment everything explodes? Let me leave you with one final image. April 16th, 1947, 8:30 a.m., a yellow-orange plume rising over Galveston Bay, children pressing their faces to classroom windows, workers stepping closer to the dock, a photographer raising his camera, everyone thinking, this is just a fire. The firefighters will handle it. Everything will be fine. And then, 9/12, the world ends. Not for everyone, but for 576 people, for 27 firefighters, for families, friends, loved ones. It ends in a flash of light, in a wall of pressure, in a moment so fast they never knew. That plume was a warning. Yellow-orange, nitrogen dioxide. The chemistry was screaming, but no one understood. Today, we understand. Today, we have the rules, the regulations, the science. Today, we know. But knowing is only half the battle. The other half is remembering. Remembering Texas City. Remembering the Grandcamp and the High Flyer. Remembering the firefighters who ran toward the flames. Remembering the families who lost everything. Remembering that disasters aren't accidents. They're choices. Choices to cut corners, to ignore warnings, to say it'll be fine until it's not. Texas City survived, it rebuilt, it recovered, but it never forgot. The names on the memorial, the anchors in the park, the empty chairs at dinner tables, they're still there, reminding us this happened here in America, in living memory, and it could happen again, unless we remember, unless we learn, unless we honor those 576 lives by making sure their deaths were not in vain. Rest in peace to all who were lost. May their memory be a blessing, and may we never, ever forget.